A brand new feature to 6.5, which was kind of unexpected actually, is the stabilization filter. I need this filter quite often, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't carry a tripod around with me a whole lot, but on this very first shot, you can see, well, you could hear that the wind was blowing to begin with, and there were a lot of cars behind me when I was shooting this, but if I play this, you're going to see that it's moving around quite a bit. Now, I could slow that down a tad bit because it's more of a static shot. I could try to slow it down a tad and see what happens. But now I have this wonderful filter called stabilization. Now, to get to the filters, remember our first filter was the layout, which really isn't defined as a filter, but I've lumped it in there. But to get to video filters, I just select the video filters in the effect palette, and you can see that I have the list of them right here. So I'm going to come down, and I believe stabilization is right down here at the bottom. Now, notice that there's a stabilizer and then a stabilizer and rolling shutter correction with this red S. Let me remind you that when you see a red S, that means it's a preset that was created and brought in with the program, meaning that the programmers have already created some presets and put those in. So really, when you see that red S or the yellow U, which is the user one that you created like we did in the sound, it really is just that filter, but that filter that has been manipulated either by, like I said, the good folks at Grass Valley or by yourself. So I'm going to bring the stabilizer down, and once again, I can just pull it right down on top of the shot. You can see it shows up right here in my information window. And so I'm going to open it up, and the video stabilizer, basically I'm going to crank this bad boy up. So I'm going to crank up the translate. I'm going to crank up the scale right here. And then down here in the preview, a lot of the filters have the ability to be able to see kind of half and half. So I'm going to do this to where you can't see it right now, but when I start to play it, let's take a look and see if there's a difference. See, you can see a rather big difference on the right-hand side and the left-hand side. Let's play that once again. My left-hand side is much, much smoother now. My right-hand side is moving around a lot more. So basically, if I'm going to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to crank both those up right there, go back to my preview full, and select OK, you can now see there's still a certain amount of movement in it, but that movement is much smoother than it was before. And so depending upon what happens, and let me just open this up again, but depending upon what happens in your shot, whether you're driving in a car and all of a sudden it's a little bit rattly or something of that nature, you can translate, you can scale, you can rotate, perspective, rolling shutter. You can set a maximum scale to it. The default's 150, but that is changeable because I can take that up or I can take that down if I want to. But this preview right here, especially with the stabilization tool, is a wonderful way of being able to see. Like, if I bring up perspective and then I go through and watch, I can see that if that brings any real difference to it, such as, I'm going to rotate it and bring up rotate. I'm just going to crank everything up here so you can kind of see some of the differences as it happens. Notice that little bit of rotation is gone that was there before. And so each one of these kind of helps with, the camera rotating a little bit, the scaling of it and whatnot. This tool so far, I've already used a couple of times to really smooth out some shots. And I think it's going to be a very powerful tool in your toolbox.